What is it, do you think, about your game that has people just can't wait to see you on the professional level?
I think it's just the style of basketball that I play. To be honest, I don't get nervous for games because I just know this is fun.
Just moments after another jaw-dropping performance on the court, Caitlin Clark sat at the podium ready for the usual post-game questions. However, a veteran reporter said something that completely shattered the script. And for the first time in recent memory, she was speechless. What was said, and why is everyone still talking about it? Join us as we unravel a reporter's statement that left Caitlin Clark speechless. Post-game press conference, post-match media conference. The Indiana Fever had just pulled off an important 94-87 win against the Las Vegas Aces at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Caitlin Clark led the way with what many experts called her best all-around game as a pro. So far, her stats looked like something out of a video game. 28 points on 11 of 18 shooting, including 6 three-pointers out of 10, along with 12 assists, 5 rebounds, and only 2 turnovers in 38 minutes of play. The win pushed Indiana into playoff position with just a few weeks left in the regular season. The press room buzzed with excitement. Cameras clicked, reporters scribbled notes, and Clark answered questions with her usual calm confidence and fiery spirit. ESPN's Holly Rowe had just asked about Clark's growing connection with teammate Aaliyah Boston, especially how well they worked together on the pick and roll, which had helped score 18 points in the paint against Las Vegas. Clark smiled and said, "The trust between us is really growing. Aaliyah has been patient with me while I adjusted to the timing at this level tonight. Felt like we were reading each other's minds." That's when Stephen A. Smith, sitting in the front row, caught her eye. He had been surprisingly quiet during the entire 15-minute press conference. Unusual for someone known for his loud and passionate takes on First Take and his big personality that dominates sports talk shows. "Stephen A. Go ahead," Clark said, pointing to the legendary commentator who had covered everyone from Michael Jordan to LeBron James over his long career. What shocking question did Stephen ask? Let's find out. The surprising question. Smith's shocking question stood up slowly, setting aside the usual big personality and dramatic gestures that had made him one of the most well-known voices in sports media. His face looked more serious than usual, almost thoughtful as he began to speak. His calm, steady voice changed the mood in the room. It no longer felt like just another post-game interview. Something deeper was happening. "Caitlin," he said, "I've been doing this job for over 30 years. I've talked to thousands of athletes from every major sport. I've seen champions and teams at the bottom. I've interviewed legends and players no one remembers. I've watched rookies who surprised everyone and veterans who didn't live up to the hype. But there's something I need to ask you. Something that's been on my mind ever since I really started paying close attention to you this season." The room went completely quiet. Reporters stopped typing mid-sentence. Camera operators leaned in. Even the Fever's media staff, who were getting ready to end the session, froze at the back of the room. "You know," Smith continued, "I've built my whole career on being honest, even when that means being critical. That's my job. It's part of who I am. I don't hold back when I think an athlete isn't meeting the mark. And I don't say sorry for having high standards, but this season, watching you, how you've handled the pressure, the expectations, the move from college to the pros, it's made me think hard." He paused, rubbing his face in a way that didn't feel like part of a performance. It felt real emotional. "There's something I should have said a long time ago, and honestly, I owe you an apology," he said. "Here's my question. How do you keep showing so much grace and professionalism even when people like me, especially me, have been unfair? I've been too harsh, too quick to judge, and sometimes just plain wrong about your journey to the pro level. I need to be honest with you, and with everyone here. You've proved a lot of us wrong, and you deserve much better than some of the things that have been said, especially the things I've said." But how did Clark respond to this? Let's take a closer look. Clark's shocking reaction. For the first time in her professional career, maybe even since high school, Caitlin Clark didn't know what to say. The same player who had faced loud, angry crowds at Michigan State, stayed calm under the bright lights of the Final Four at Iowa, answered tough questions about her game, and dealt with the huge pressure of being the most talked about rookie in WNBA history, was suddenly silent. She sat there, mouth slightly open, then closed it again. Her hands, which had been moving confidently throughout the press conference, now rested still on the podium. "Wow," she finally said, her voice quiet and shaky. For once, the confidence that had carried her through so many intense moments seemed to slip away. "Stephen A., I honestly don't know what to say to that," she added. "I mean, I really don't have words right now." The room stayed silent. Everyone knew they were witnessing something rare. A real unscripted moment in a world where media appearances are usually carefully planned. Even her teammates Kelsey Mitchell and Melissa Smith, who had been about to leave for the team bus, stopped in the hallway and turned around. They could feel something important was happening. Finding her voice, Clark began again, trying to find her voice. She was clearly still emotional. "You asking me that question, you being willing to say what you just said, it means more than you probably know because yeah, it has been tough sometimes. The criticism, the constant comparisons to my college stats. People wondered if I could really make the jump from the Big Ten to the WNBA, wondering if the hype was too much, if I were really ready for all this." She paused, took a deep breath, and seemed to settle herself. "But you know what? All that criticism, it pushed me. It made me work harder in the gym. It made me study more film. It made me prove not just to others but to myself that I belong here, that I can be the kind of teammate and player this league needs, that the fans who believe in me weren't wrong." Then she looked up again, her voice steadier now. "And hearing you say what you just said, hearing you admit that maybe some of the early criticism wasn't fair, it's honestly overwhelming, but in the best way." So, what does Smith reveal next? Let's find out. Smith's follow-up message. "Stephen A." Smith nodded slowly, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out what looked like handwritten notes. It was clear this wasn't just a last-minute comment.
"There's more I need to say," he began.
"And I need to say it out loud because I've said things before on TV that weren't fair or fully thought out. It's time I take responsibility for that." He started reading from his notes. His voice was serious and filled with regret. "3 months ago on First Take, I said you were overhyped. I said the excitement around you in the WNBA was just something the media, especially ESPN, created to boost ratings. I claimed you needed to prove yourself through a full season before earning the spotlight. I questioned if you were strong or fast enough for pro basketball. I even said that just because you succeeded in college didn't. You're not just a great rookie. You're changing the game for women's basketball. And for that, I owe you, the league, and my audience a real apology." So, what was the reaction in the conference room? Let's take a look. The reaction room's response. The press room suddenly came alive in a way that even the most experienced basketball reporters had never seen before. Cameras flashed as photographers tried to catch every second of Caitlin Clark's emotional reaction. Other reporters quickly began typing and recording, realizing they were witnessing a powerful moment. Holly Rowe, a respected ESPN reporter who had covered many touching moments in her career, was clearly moved. She wiped away tears with a tissue while still taking notes. Adrian Woroski, famous for calmly reporting huge NBA news, pulled out his phone and began recording, knowing this was a moment of real importance. Sue Bird, attending the event as a special ESPN analyst, stood up and started clapping. Her gesture encouraged others to do the same. First, the ESPN crew joined in. Then, other journalists, and even some members of the Indiana Fever staff who had gathered to watch this surprising moment. Fever teammate Aaliyah Boston walked up to the podium and gently placed a hand on Clark's shoulder. A silent but powerful show of support. The gesture seemed to help Clark steady herself as she stood before dozens of reporters and cameras still trying to take it all in. Then she spoke. Her voice was steadier now. "Stephen A.," she said, "you don't need to apologize to me. Sports media is supposed to challenge us. It's supposed to be tough to hold athletes accountable and to ask hard questions. What really matters to me is that you're willing to rethink things when new facts change your view. That takes real strength and honesty." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of reporters, some of whom had been openly critical of her during her rocky start as a pro. "And honestly," she continued, "that criticism helped me. It pushed me. It made me work harder, not just to prove something to fans or reporters, but to prove to myself that I belong here, that I can compete and win at this level, that I can handle the jump from college to the pros and maybe even master it. The conversation took a turn after that. Adrian Wojnarowski, who had been quietly watching and recording, raised his hand and asked a thoughtful question. "Caitlin," he said, "going back to what Stephen A. said about rethinking how we cover things, how do you think the media has changed its approach to women's basketball since you joined the league? And what would you like to see happen next?" Clark paused to think carefully before answering. "I think we've definitely gotten more attention," she said. "Which is amazing, not just for me, but for young girls looking up to us and for the incredible women who've been building this league for years. But more attention also means more pressure, and that's okay as long as the criticism is fair and based on facts." She glanced at Stephen A., who was still standing and listening closely. "What I respect about Stephen A. today is that he's showing growth. He's willing to listen and learn. Covering women's sports isn't just about using the same methods you use for men's sports. This is something new, something meaningful, and it needs to be understood in its own context. With all the unique challenges and chances that come with being a woman playing pro basketball in 2025, Rebecca Lobo, another ESPN analyst who also played in the WNBA, added her voice to the conversation. "Caitlin, you mentioned using criticism as motivation. Can you share more about how you've managed the pressure of being seen as the face of what many are calling a new era for the WNBA?" Clark smiled slightly. Her confidence had fully returned. "That's the thing," she said. "I never planned to be the face of anything. The surprise, the defining moment." Then Stephen A. Smith did something that surprised everyone even more than his earlier apology. He sat back down, reached into his jacket pocket again, and pulled out a small, well-worn piece of paper that had clearly been folded many times. It looked like he had been carrying it around for a while. "Caitlin," he said, "there's one more thing, and it's the most important thing I wanted to share today. My daughter plays basketball for her middle school team in New York. She's been following your journey since your junior year at Iowa. A while back, she asked me to give you something if I ever got the chance to meet you." He stood up, walked over to the podium, and handed the folded paper to Clark. "She wrote you a letter a few months ago, around the time I was being pretty critical about your start in the pros. She made me promise to give it to you if I ever met you in person. I've been carrying it to games, waiting for the right time." Clark took the letter with interest and clear appreciation. She carefully unfolded it as if she knew it was more than just a fan message. As she read silently, her expression changed. First curious, then surprised, and finally emotional. Her eyes opened wide, then narrowed as she focused on certain words. A warm smile grew on her face, and it looked like she might even tear up. "Would you mind if I read part of this out loud?" she asked Smith. He nodded quickly. "I think this is something everyone should hear," she said, then cleared her throat and began reading with a mix of joy and deep feeling. After reading the letter, the room erupted in even louder laughter, and some reporters even clapped for the letter and Maya's honest take on her dad's basketball opinions. "She's definitely not wrong about that last part," Smith said with a smile, setting off another wave of laughter and turning the moment into one of real warmth, humor, and connection rather than just another sports media event. So, what do you think about the reporter's unexpected statement that left Caitlin Clark speechless? Let us know your answer in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.